It's P&O embarkation day, so let's go to Southampton.
We took the train from Bristol Temple Meads to Southampton Central and arrived just after 12. We then took an Uber to the port and arrived at 12:30. Our port arrival time was 12:45, so we dropped our luggage off and headed straight into the terminal and straight to check-in. A big tip is to arrive as close to your arrival time as possible. When we arrived, those people who were over an hour early had to wait outside until their time, and the weather wasn't great. We sailed through check-in and security, and then we got on the ship. From arrival at the port to getting on board was approximately 20 minutes, so fantastic. We headed to our muster station and then to the buffet for lunch. Thankfully, P&O hasn't returned to the old muster drill style, like some other cruise lines. At 2 p.m. we were able to go to our cabin, so we headed down to settle in, and our cases were already at our cabin. So we unpacked and then headed out to explore the ship. First stop was the spa. We had a quick tour of the facilities, and I was so happy when my friends said they wanted to book the hydrotherapy suite. It's one of my favourite activities on board, and I highly recommend it. We then headed to Brodie's for a drink. We stayed there for a while and listened to the captain's address. The weather wasn't great in Southampton that day, so we had a change of itinerary by our sea day and day in Belgium being swapped around. By 7 p.m. we were ready for food and headed to the main dining room on deck 6. We were seated straight away, which was great. One of my friends has a nut allergy and the crew were fantastic from the get-go. After tea we headed to the Crow's Nest for a drink. We weren't leaving Southampton until 1 a.m, so we had no plans to watch sail away and the weather was awful. So instead we checked out the horizon for what we could do on our sea day and called it a day. The clocks went forward overnight and we woke up too late for breakfast. We did, however, have beautiful blue skies and calm seas. By the time we got ready, it was 11:30, so we headed to Brodie's for a soft drink and to wait out until the main dining room opened at 12 for lunch. We were then straight in there. After lunch, we headed back to our cabin to change and headed up to the open decks. The decks were busy, but we found some lounges just outside the adults only area in the sun. The theme of our trip was definitely laughter, as we were constantly laughing and cackling. We decided to book an excursion for Bruges and booked it on the webpage. Super easy to do. After a few hours enjoying the sun and calm seas, we headed back to our cabin to get ready for celebration night.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pretty night. Look at it.
Sadly, there was no captain's address or celebration night drink, but we had a fabulous time. It was gone 8 by the time we had headed to the main dining room for tea, and as it was celebration night, it was very busy. We were given a pager and were advised that it may be up to 2 hours, but we would be seated. We decided to head to the theatre and watch the show whilst we waited. We enjoyed the show, and maybe 10 minutes after we came out, we were called to the main dining room. Our food was great and we shared a bottle of fizz before heading to bed as we needed to be up early the next morning for Belgium. We decided to have a cabin breakfast on the Friday as we didn't want a repeat of the Thursday, so had a selection of pastries and fruit bowls delivered to our cabin whilst we got ready. We then headed off the ship and got our coach to Bruges. The coach took approximately 20 to 30 minutes and then we had a short 10-minute walk into town. Our excursion host recommended we do a canal boat first thing to avoid the queues later in the day, so that's what we did. A good tip as the canal boats were really busy in the afternoon. After the canal boat ride, we headed to the central square and found a place for a waffle. It was super good with being hidden away, and I would definitely recommend it. We then continued wandering and decided it was time for a hot chocolate. The theme of this cruise as well was definitely food and drink because we ate and drank a lot. This place was lovely. We walked back along the canal and I tripped and rolled my ankle. Spoiler alert, I broke a bone in my ankle, but I didn't find out for over a week, so go careful on those cobblestones. We wandered some more before, yes, I was continuing to walk on it for that week. We wandered some more before heading to a cafe for a quick bite for lunch. It was then time to head back to the coach for our return to the ship. We arrived back at the ship at 4 p.m, an hour before all aboard. It was really busy and there were queues to get on, but they went quickly and we were on board within about 15 minutes. We dropped off the chocolates we had purchased and headed up to the sail away party. After the sail away, we headed down to the spa for our hydrotherapy suite session. It was a busy session, there was quite a few people there, but we were able to get a hot bed and also had room in the thermal pool and steam rooms. Britannia now has an Arctic room, but this wasn't in service whilst we were on board. Hopefully I can try this when I'm back on Britannia in May next year. On Saturday, we woke up as we sailed into Cherbourg. We didn't have any plans, so headed down to breakfast and then got off and explored on our own. We walked into town. The walk from the port took approximately 15 minutes. We had a wander round and came across this parade, which was really cool to see. found a spot for some people watching and a hot chocolate before wandering some more and then headed back to the ship. We headed up to deck 16 for a burger and more people watching. I do love people watching on board. It was then time to head back to our cabin and to pack. We wanted to watch the 60s Motown show and managed to book seats on the My Holiday website after it being sold out earlier in the day. We booked the 8:30 show, so put our cases out and headed for an early tea before a cocktail in the atrium. Jeff Dingle was great fun and it was a really entertaining show. The clocks went back as we sailed back into Southampton and we woke up docked back at the port. We got ready and headed to breakfast at 8 a.m. before we got off the ship at 9 and headed to the station to get the train home. We had a fantastic time with lots of laughs, good food and beautiful weather. I was slightly worried the girls wouldn't enjoy cruising because not everyone does and that's okay, but thankfully they did and we were looking for a 2024 cruise. So thank you for watching and see you all soon!